and the omnibus. So I was forced into the Archers when I was a child. And look, it's come back to bite me later on. I'm awash with this stuff.
The Archers is the world's longest-running radio show, with more than 15,000 episodes broadcast. Despite being a rural flavour show, The Archers is recorded in the heart of...
Okay, let's dive in. We've got a really potent piece of source material today. It's audio drama, very focused, very emotional. And it zeroes in on this character, George, who's just been released from confinement. We're basically listening to his first few hours back home.
Right. And it's this incredible mix of closeness, intimacy, but also this really sharp anxiety bubbling up.
Absolutely. So George is out. There's this welcome home party planned. Lots of expectations there.
Yeah, and our mission today for this deep dive is really to unpack that. How does someone navigate such a difficult homecoming? We'll look at the sensory stuff, the contrasts, and crucially, how his sort of core support network kicks in to help him adjust.
Okay, so where does it start? Well, it kicks off with this moment of just pure relief, doesn't it?
It really does. You're dropped right into this very intimate scene. George and his fiancée, Amber, they're upstairs, still in bed, just delaying the day.
Yeah, he's completely focused on her, talking about her skin, wanting, one more kiss. It really establishes the stakes for that relationship straight away. It feels very safe.
That's like a little protective bubble, isn't it? This quiet connection is his anchor. But that bubble doesn't last long.
No. The moment the outside world starts creeping in specifically, talk about the party downstairs, everything shifts.
It shifts hard. His mom and Brad arrive, and suddenly it's all checklists, logistics, party prep.
And George just crumbles almost. He goes from this loving fiancé to someone who feels like he needs to, I think his words were, get out of there as soon as I could.
And it's fascinating because it's not just like social awkwardness. It's deeper. It's physical.
Yeah, he tells his dad, Ed, later on about feeling jumpy, a bit on edge. He talks about this tightness in his chest.
A really tight chest, yeah. And feeling like he might choke. That's pretty intense.
That's bordering on panic, isn't it? Just from family being there and the idea of a party. So why? Why does something seemingly normal trigger such a visceral reaction?
Well, if you look at what he says about his time away, it gives us the clue. He talks about having to shut my mind down in there just to cope.
Like a defense mechanism.
Exactly. The brain's incredible that way. When you're facing something like long-term confinement, maybe sensory deprivation, it sort of dials down the processing. It stops you dwelling on sensory details from home that, as he puts it, hurt too much to think about.
So things like the farm, the rain.
Yeah, the smell of grass. He mentions helping with Texels, being out with his grandpa and the turkeys. All those rich, specific sensory memories of his life, he had to block those out.
Because inside was just... what was it?
He says the stink of sweat and metal.
Yeah.
A very stark contrast. So when he's suddenly thrown back into this, highly stimulating environment, people, noise, cooking smells, talking, it's like the system just gets overloaded.
The firewall comes down.
Precisely. That sensory firewall he built gets smashed, and you get that physical choke response, that desperate need for fresh air, like a kind of sensory shock.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So he makes a break for it, essentially. Grabs his dad's old bike, wants to walk alone. But Ed, his dad, intercepts him.
And crucially, Ed doesn't try and force him back inside. He offers something else, a distraction.
The walk to Underwoods. It feels like Ed's providing this immediate sort of counter pressure to the anxiety. Very calm, very practical.
Ed really is that practical support fiddle here. He doesn't push George to talk feelings. Instead, he shifts the focus to something concrete, something external. And interestingly, they end up talking about Bartleby.
Right, Bartleby the animal. Now, I did pause on that. Talking about putting down an animal, even humanely. It seems like a heavy topic for right then, doesn't it? Why bring that up?
It seems counterintuitive, maybe, but I think it works as this kind of touchstone. It's about control, about acceptance, maybe closure regarding tough but necessary choices.
Okay.
George needed reassurance that Bartleby had a nice goodbye. Ed describes it. Family was there. Amber was there. He got his special honey sandwich. It frames it as a peaceful, managed ending.
And George confirms that view, doesn't he? Contrasting it with people who don't get farming, who might see it as brutal. He says, I think it's the best way. Fast, painless.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you feel he's not just talking about Bartleby there. He's maybe processing his own recent harsh realities. affirming that sometimes difficult decisions lead to a clean end, and now he needs a clean beginning.
And that sort of sets the stage emotionally for the Red Wing analogy that Ed uses next, which is really quite beautiful.
It really is. Ed talks about sitting outside, hearing these birds, redwings arriving. They've flown, 500 miles across the North Sea from Iceland, Russia, Scandinavia.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is where George's personal struggle gets sort of externalized, validated through nature. Ed points out how hard it is. A tough journey, bad weather means many don't make it.
But the ones that do?
The ones that do, Ed says, they're proper survivors.
Right. And that word survivor, it just reframes everything for George, doesn't it? His time away isn't just something awful that happened to him.
Exactly. And it becomes this migration. Grueling, necessary, but ultimately, he survived it. It takes some of the personal weight off, maybe, while acknowledging the achievement. He's not a victim, he's a survivor.
And the thing that really lands it, I think, is the sound, that chip, chip, chip noise. George instantly knows it. He says, that's the sound of when I was a kid.
Yeah, that's the anchor. That specific sound connects his present survival straight back to a time of safety, of security, probably from his childhood on the farm. It's like linking survivor George back to his core stable self, kind of overriding the trauma.
And you see the shift in him. He even comments on it, tells Ed, you and Mom are pretty cool, really, aren't you? To be sitting out listening to birds migrate.
He appreciates that quiet moment. And his focus changes then, doesn't it? It moves from just surviving the moment to thinking about the future, about thriving.
Yeah, he expresses that hope, wanting to make Amber as happy as Ed makes his mom.
He's found his footing again. He's thinking about proactive things, acts of love, rather than just reacting to the anxiety.
Which leads perfectly into the next bit, the flower mission. This feels like him taking control back.
Definitely. He admits his original big romantic plan failed. He had this whole reunion envisioned, flowers included, but when he actually got out, he had nothing for her.
The grand gesture fell flat before it even started.
Right. But Ed, again, provides the practical solution. Forget the perfect plan. Let's go to Underwood's now and make something amazing. Let's make a jaw-droppingly massive bunch of flowers.
And they do. The source describes them literally sticking lots of small bunches together to make this huge arrangement, I think they call it.
Yes, some flowers, purple ones, those spiky green things. It's very hands-on. And that little detail, George picks the wrapping paper with hearts.
Aww.
It's a deliberate act of making amends, of showing affection in a tangible way. And Ed connects this directly to something deeper, a family motto, apparently.
Oh, yeah.
Making a bad thing good. Ed says George's mom used to say it when he or Sister Kira messed up a painting or icing a cake. You don't scrap it. You find a way to turn the mistake into something interesting, something fun.
Ah, okay. So it's about reframing failure, turning a mess into something unique.
Exactly. And Ed frames this flower, arranging as George doing that now, applying that family coping strategy to this big life event, showing his younger siblings, Kira and Poppy, how you move forward, how you make something good out of a potential mess up.
That's a really important lesson. And it's good they've got that framework because they returned from the flower shop feeling pretty good, I imagine.
Yeah, mission accomplished.
Only to walk right into another kind of failure, the party itself.
The party is, well, it's a complete non-event. 8 o'clock rolls around. Nobody's there.
Crickets. Apparently most people didn't even RSVP. Amber's devastated, thinking she's thrown the worst party ever.
And you have to remember the context from earlier. The family was actually worried about the opposite problem.
Right. Emma was stressing about no plus ones. There's that whole story about some guy bringing random strangers once.
They were braced for chaos, for trouble, maybe even police getting called. They were mentally prepared for a public disaster of, like, conflict or drama.
And instead, they get this disaster of silence. Total anticlimax.
But maybe that's exactly what was needed. That public failure kind of clears the slate.
Oh, so?
It forces George to completely reevaluate what matters. His first reaction is that dark humor, joking that it's actually good nobody came.
Yeah, he jokes about Derek Fletcher potentially calling the police, getting him arrested and dragged back to jail.
It's like that humor just burns off any lingering pressure to perform for a crowd. He dismisses the no-shows as those losers and then immediately pivots.
Pivots to what's actually there, what's real.
Exactly. He looks at Amber and Brad and says, I've got my two best friends here. What more could I want?
He calls Brad like a brother. And Amber.
Yeah.
She's better than sunshine.
It's this powerful affirmation. The big public welcome home party failed spectacularly, 0 guests. But that failure reveals the private success underneath, the strength of his core relationships.
So sends with them in a group hug, right? The 3 of them.
Yes, that's the real homecoming. Not the crowd, not the party, but that small, intimate moment of connection and acceptance. The anxiety about the crowd just dissolves because the only audience that ever really mattered was right there with him.
So if we boil it down, what's the central insight from this deep dive? What's the lesson here?
I think it's that genuine recovery. That process of reacclimatizing after something like confinement isn't really about the big gestures or the public validation.
It's more internal.
Yeah, it's about navigating that initial sensory overload, finding ways to ground yourself like Ed did with the walk, the Red Wing story, and ultimately recognizing the immense value of those small core bonds. The 3-person party was the real success.
And that idea of making a bad thing good, that wasn't just about the flowers, was it? It was about turning the entire situation, the failed party, into something meaningful.
Absolutely. They reframed the public flop into a private triumph of connection.
Which does leave you with a thought, doesn't it?
Very.
Proud of you, listening. George and his friends essentially turned this public failure, the 0 guest party, into a deeply meaningful private success. It makes you wonder, how often do we let external markers, the big party, the crowd, the public approval, define whether something is a success or not? What are we missing when we chase that external validation?
Yeah, what's the value we overlook in those smaller, quieter moments? The metaphorical group hug moments in our own lives.
Maybe we all need to pause sometimes, listen for our own chip, 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 chip sounds, and just appreciate the journey we've taken. Acknowledge that we too are proper survivors who've made it home in our own ways.
So what are you doing now?
Just getting ready for the next episode. Just moving mics around.
So what do you do?
I do the spot effects on the arches. Any
Are you what we
movements
call Foley then?
and- kind of. Yep.
Okay. And these are all part of the paraphernalia of production.
Yep. That's the ball bar.
This one.
Yep. That's.
Haley so wanted to be in their own place when their baby came. It's due in 2 months. Not much chance of that now. No. I mean, it would have been a stretch for them financially, mind, but I just wish there was something practical I could do to help them, Caroline.
I think The Archers has had this immense popularity over the years, basically because it has always very accurately reflected the reality of life and living in a rural community at whatever